This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. It is an all too common sight. Packed hallways, standing room only. That's what stood out to a woman who waited 16 hours in a Winnipeg ER after paramedics rushed her there by ambulance. As CBC's Josh Crabb reports, new numbers show wait times have been climbing.
The scare of a lifetime for one Winnipeg woman was followed by a long wait here at St. Boniface Hospital's emergency department. Stacey Carrier's 6-year-old daughter called 911 on the morning of January 10th. She found Carrier unconscious in a closet where she'd been getting ready for work. She was taken to the ER by ambulance. Carrier was triaged and had an EKG within an hour and 15 minutes of arriving, but then waited 16 hours and left without seeing a doctor.
It was so packed that people were even standing in the emergency room waiting.
What did you think of that?
That blew my mind.
There's been mounting pressure on all 3 Winnipeg ERs since June. Just take a look at these numbers from the Winnipeg Regional Health Authority and Shared Health. 90th percentile ER wait time showed 10% of patients waited 13 hours or more at Health Sciences Centre in November. At St. Boniface and Grace hospitals, those waits increased to 14 hours or longer. 90% of patients waited less than that. The WRHA's Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Joss Reimer, says there are 2 main reasons for the long waits: a shortage of healthcare providers and respiratory virus season, which happens every year and is driving up hospital admissions, creating a backlog in ERs.
There's no question those numbers are too long. Nobody should be waiting 14 hours to be seen in an emergency room. You're going there because you need urgent care. And everybody on our staff would agree that we want to move those in a positive direction.
Staff are coming in on days off, working overtime, and care options outside emergency rooms are being expanded at Connected Care Clinics and the Pan Am Minor Injury Clinic. Some elective surgeries are also being rescheduled until virus numbers decrease. The WRHA doesn't want to see people leaving the ER, but patients who aren't as sick are given other options for care. Carrier still undergoing tests to find out what happened to her. She chose to leave the ER when a nurse warned her the wait could continue and suggested she make an appointment with her family doctor.
It's frustrating in that regard. And not only that, but you go to the hospital to get care. And when you go there and you see all of these people and they're all suffering for the same thing, and there's just not enough people.
Carrier's daughter was made an honorary junior paramedic for calling for help. While Carrier's proud of her, she doesn't have the same faith in the healthcare system's current capacity. Josh Crabb, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The province announced today one way it hopes to reduce ER wait times at Winnipeg's busiest hospital. The CBC's Ian Fraze joins us now live from the newsroom. Ian, let's start with those sky-high waits in hospital. What did the government announce that might help?
One more doctor is coming to HSC's minor treatment clinic. This clinic opened last year, meant to divert less serious cases from getting to the ER. Today's announcement will result in 2 doctors working at a time. They'll be able to treat a dozen more patients a day. The health minister, though, acknowledges this announcement doesn't sound impressive to everyone.
Some folks may be seeing the addition of 1 physician in expanded hours in this way may not seem significant, but we've heard it very clearly from these doctors that it will make an immediate positive impact. And it speaks to the work that they've been doing to better understand the ways in which patients' needs need to be better met.
This is a pilot project that will last around 4 weeks. If it works, expect this practice to continue. The PC's health critic Kathleen Cook says the government needs a healthcare staffing plan better than just 1 doctor here.
Now, I understand the Premier also spoke to downtown business leaders today, Ian, delivering comments many of them were apparently pleased to hear. What exactly did the Premier say?
Well, he said that hybrid work shouldn't be the default for civil servants.
And just like as just a workflow thing, I don't think hybrid is good. Like it's very disruptive if you have a creative conversation around a room of 5 people and then there's 4 people jumping in on a remote call type of setup.
Premier Wab Kinew was speaking at a downtown Winnipeg biz event, hinting that civil servants might be in the office more often. particularly the managers of frontline workers.
How can you manage somebody who has to show up in person if you're not showing up in person? I think it's tough for us to credibly say we're going to improve the culture or we're going to match the commitment of people on the front lines if we're not showing up ourselves.
Now, Canoe says there are scenarios where remote work would make sense, like to accommodate parents who are dealing with childcare arrangements or to recruit and retain workers. Canoe says, though, he'd like to build a consensus on this issue before announcing any changes. Janet.
Thanks so much, Ian. The CBC's Ian Fraze reporting live from the newsroom tonight. Winnipeg's largest school division is taking dramatic steps to address high rates of absenteeism. It could mean changes to your child's schedule. CBC's Brittany Greenslade reports.
Every single day, there are children around Winnipeg who are missing school. But for thousands in the city's largest school division, it's happening too often for too many, and it's raising concerns.
That is sort of what keeps us up at night at Winnipeg School Division. And that's our moral imperative right now, is to sort of say school isn't working for some kids.
A letter sent home to families in the Winnipeg School Division says it's struggling with getting 2,500 students to school on a regular basis for a variety of reasons, and a significant amount are high school students.
What are the barriers we can remove for kids? How do we reimagine school? What are kids actually telling us when they're not coming, and how do we ameliorate that? Because the stakes are high.
It's led the division to make changes. Starting next month, a handful of schools will implement either a late start or early dismissal day once a week to give teachers time to see who is missing and start reaching out.
It's the classroom teacher's job and responsibility to go to the house, make the home visit, make the call saying, hey, we miss you. I need you here in my class.
A group of staff.
Kent Dewick works with hundreds of vulnerable kids at Inner City Youth Alive.
We recently talked to a family that had a 9-year-old and a 13-year-old who had been out of school for over 3 years. Over 3 years.
He was part of the province's attendance task force and says it's a city and province-wide problem.
When we rang a bell about absenteeism and the levels in the North End especially, and I found that the levels that it's way worse than we'd imagined.
While he applauds the pilot, he says this is just one step, and teachers cannot do this alone. It's going to take more than just knocking on doors.
Community agencies, CFS, Employment Income Assistance, Justice, everybody has to be engaged in this because it's a very, very big problem, and it's good that we're starting.
The pilot project will go until the end of the school year. The division says lost lesson time will be made up by pushing final exams back and adding more school days in June. Brittany Greenslade, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Winnipeg firefighters are frustrated. They saw more fires in vacant buildings last year than ever before. And those fires are some of the most dangerous a firefighter can face. Calls are growing for the City of Winnipeg to take tougher action on problem properties while also addressing the need for more housing. As the CBC's Cameron McLean reports, the Premier's also weighing in with an idea.
This apartment on Gertie Street is one of dozens of vacant buildings that burned last year. A few blocks away on Bannatyne, this house caught fire in April. There are 3 open violations of the city's vacant buildings bylaw against the owner.
This is a fire waiting to happen.
Vivian Ketchum lives in the neighborhood. She's seen a number of these fires in the last year.
There's probably one or 2 or 3 in every block.
Winnipeg firefighters responded to a record number of vacant building fires last year. According to the Firefighters Union, in 1 year, the number of vacant building fires went from 84 to 150.
It's been the winter from hell. That's on top of our extremely high call volume for medical calls and other non-vacant fires of significance.
Tom Billis of the Firefighters Union wants the city to tear down buildings that pose a risk of fires. Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew has another idea.
We should put expropriation of problem properties on the table here in the city.
Kinew says seizing buildings and fixing them would be a faster way of creating affordable housing than building new.
In those kind of more extreme cases where we see dozens of housing units sitting idle, just because of whatever, I think we do need to take a stronger step.
The Premier doesn't need to look very far to see a boarded up building with plenty of vacant units. Right across from his constituency office on Osborne Street sits the Rubin Block, which has been vacant for a decade, ever since a fire in 2014.
This apartment on Furby Street served as a backdrop for an announcement last summer. City leaders promised to get tougher on problem property owners. Property Chair Sherry Rowlands welcomes the Premier's offer to expand the city's tools to tackle the issue.
I'm glad Premier obviously is looking at leaning into the issue of vacancy and seeing how the legislature can help.
Community members like Vivian Ketchum hope government officials take action soon before more buildings burn. Cameron McLean, CBC News, Winnipeg.
He was a pioneer, an outside-the-box thinker, and even a legend. Those are some of the terms being used to describe Manitoba aviator Bob Demert this week, following his death. CBC's Gavin Axelrod has more.
Full left. I think that the snag we had is cleared.
That's self-trained engineer Bob Demert bringing a Japanese warplane back to life in the 80s.
That looks good.
One of many restoration efforts that helped put him on the map.
If you could go inside and see how his brain worked, it would probably just astonish you.
Demert died last week. His oldest daughter, Diane Sovle, is quick to highlight her father's drive, sometimes proving doubters wrong in the process.
That's probably where my sisters and I get our strong sense of work ethic and just never give up. Always see stuff through.
Right from restoration to stunt piloting. He restored a Hawker Hurricane fighter aircraft and took it back in the sky for the 1969 movie, The Battle of Britain. He's also known for several restorations of Japanese warplanes that he ventured to the jungles of the South Pacific to find. They were just shells when Demert got his hands on them.
Those would have been in there since late 1940s, like towards probably the end of the Second World War, and he didn't go there till like mid-60s. So yeah, the jungle in the South Pacific was not kind to those planes at all.
Then there was the Defender, the subject of a 1988 National Film Board documentary, a plane Demert designed and claimed could be a cheaper alternative for the country instead of the F-18. Aviation buff and longtime friend Jerry Susky says the Defender was ahead of its time.
He spent many days in Winnipeg at the Department of Transport offices, the military offices in Winnipeg, and federally, trying to convince them that his Defender should be looked at more seriously, but they wouldn't do it.
He also remembers Demert's generosity, often working on planes for free.
I would go and buy him lunch and say, thanks for working my airplane for nothing when I couldn't afford it. And he was just very generous in that respect.
While the military never gave the Defender a serious look, his daughter says his never-quit attitude continues to inspire others.
Just don't give up on your goals. He never did. He always saw a project through, and he never stopped dreaming.
And never stopped working. She says Demert was engineering right up until his death, leaving unfinished projects she hopes maybe someone can pick up where her father left off. Gavin Axelrod, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A former Western Hockey League coach is going to jail. Bernie Lynch has been convicted of sexual assault. The offense happened in 1988 when he was working as an assistant coach for the Regina Pats. The CBC's Alexander Kwan reports.
It's taken nearly 36 years, but Friday morning, the disgraced former hockey coach was let off in handcuffs. Bernie Lynch will now begin a 3-year prison sentence for sexual assault and assault. In 1988, Lynch was the newly hired assistant coach of the Western Hockey League's Regina Pats. Lynch was attempting to recruit a 17-year-old when he inappropriately touched him and hit him. But after a week-long trial last year, Court of King's Bench Justice Peter Bergbush said he was left with no reasonable doubt about Lynch's guilt. Lynch spoke in court before his sentence was delivered, and once again he categorically denied that he ever had sexual relations with the then teen, whose identity is protected under a publication ban. But Bergbush didn't believe that, saying Lynch took advantage of his position as a coach and relied on a culture of secrecy in hockey that meant players could not come forward if they were abused.
he carefully chose his victim, somebody he knew was not going to resist because of who he was and who Mr. Lynch was and what Mr. Lynch meant to his career. He also knew, or was pretty sure, that that kid, that 17-year-old kid, wasn't going to say anything because of the stigma attached to that and the impact it would have on his potential career.
The judge's decision was in line with the Crown's argument for a 3-year sentence in a federal penitentiary. He also ordered Lynch to submit his DNA to a databank and comply with the Sex Offender Registration Act for 20 years. He will not be able to own a gun or try to contact the victim. The defense had argued for 18 months in a provincial jail.
I mean, for someone in his position, he's not looking at it the way a lawyer looks at it. He's just saying, I didn't do this, I want to appeal, which is what anybody in his situation would do.
In court, the complainant, who's now in his 50s, was silent as the decision was read, but his supporters let out a cheer of yes once they heard it. He's previously told the court that a weight was lifted off his shoulders when Lynch was found guilty. He says he now has a chance to heal and move forward. Alexander Kwan, CBC News, Regina.
Thousands of Manitoba motorists have been reaching out for help during this week's extreme cold. The Canadian Automobile Association has been getting way more than its usual 300 daily calls for service, including 1,600 on Sunday alone, 2,000 calls on Monday. The CAA's Nadia Mato says drivers should take precautions when heading out in this kind of weather.
The first thing that we recommend is to make sure that your cell phone is fully charged and that you have a cell phone charger. The next thing we recommend is that your tank of gas do not go below half. A tank of gas will keep you warm for hours. And to really make sure that you pack an emergency kit before you head out.
Mato says a winter emergency kit should include jumper cables, flares or pylons, a blanket, extra socks, non-perishable food, and water. Our weather specialist Riley Lachuk joins us now. Now, the extreme cold seems to be ending for a while, correct?
Yeah, we have really, here in southern Manitoba, one more cold night yet to go. And then things start to change around a little bit slowly, but surely towards more seasonal temperatures. We can have a look at satellite radar now, and we've been kind of stuck under this cloud cover today. We did start the day sunny. I thought we'd see a little more clearing by the time we got to the supper hour, but alas, we did stay a little bit on the cloudy side through the Red River Valley today. You can see the edge of that cloud just on the edge of Winnipeg right now, and clear skies back to the east as well. So yeah, we'll see the cloud cover start to lifting over the next few hours or so. Futurecast not doing a good job at showing some of this thin cloud that we've been under, but as we get into the night tonight, you can see that starting to exit Manitoba. Sunny start to the day tomorrow for your Saturday. Another cold early morning, so another night you're going to want to plug in the car and bundle up if you go anywhere early in the morning tomorrow. But you can see we do have some more cloud cover out to the west. This starts to move into Manitoba as we get into the day on Saturday. And then we see what could be our next weather maker generally for the central part of Manitoba. A weak disturbance moving through. After this is when our temperatures really start to warm up as we get into the day on Sunday. So I've paused it here Saturday at 11 p.m. as we get into the morning on Sunday. You can start to see some of the snow starting to drop a little bit further south. So I did put a chance of some light snow early in the morning for Sunday for the Red River Valley. Most of the snow concentrated north of the city areas up into the Gimli region, as well into the region around the Grand Beach, Victoria Beach, and over toward Grand Rapids. Most likely to see some snow. Behind that, we start sunny on Sunday, and then we start to see a little bit more cloud cover building in behind that, with a Futurecast indicating another system rolling in as we head into the early part of the work week. Most forecast models, though, have been pushing this further to the south, so we'll have to wait and see on the exact path of that particular system heading into the next week or so. Looking at projected snowfall, this takes us out into the supper hour on Sunday. You can see most of that snow concentrated through central Manitoba. Barons River at 3 centimeters, really not picking up much other than a trace through the Gimli and Winnipeg regions with that snow that's moving through. Minus 18 right now in Winnipeg, pressure is rising, winds almost calm at the moment, and I hinted at that warm-up coming up, so Sunday, a high of -9 according to this forecast model, but look what happens as we get into next week. -3, so we'll be pretty close to there, I'm thinking, as we get into your 7-day forecast, which I'll show you a little bit later. Tonight, though, -27, as I mentioned. Another cold night on the way with a partly cloudy sky. -26 first thing in the morning. Mainly sunny. We see our winds picking up starting in the morning tomorrow. South winds gusting to 50 through the afternoon, so could be a little bit dicey with some blowing snow, especially if you do any highway travel tomorrow, so take that in mind. -17 in the afternoon, and then we start to see our temperatures warming. -10 for Sunday with chances of that snow in the morning. Clearing on Monday, -11, and Janet, -7 for Tuesday. Things looking warmer than this as we get into the middle part of next week, and I'll have that coming up a bit later in the show.
All right, looking forward to it. Thank you, Riley.
You're welcome.
Ray and Jerry's. I'm hungry just thinking about it. This restaurant's been serving up steaks and other treats to Winnipeggers since 1939. It's known for its retro interior style, and little has changed for that restaurant in the past 4 decades, until now. Its current owner is retiring and selling the business. He had a special surprise for the new managing partner of the business as well. CBC's Jim Agapito went to find out more.
Adam, this is booth number 20. This is my booth, and before that it was John and Jerry's booth.
Wow.
I'm now giving it to you. My name is Steve Hrusalis. I'm the owner of Ray and Jerry Steakhouse and have been for approximately 49 years. I bought it when I was 30 years old. I didn't know any better. I wasn't married, so I took a shot. It was, for the last 49 years, it's been fantastic. I've got to meet a lot of customers, a lot of who are now friends, a lot of generations of customers. I've had a lot of fantastic employees. I've been blessed. It was my baby, but it was something I knew I should do, and I did it. I made the right decision. It's going to 3 fine gentlemen who are going to run it as Ray and Jerry's. They're going to keep it as Ray and Jerry's, and they're going to do what I did, tweak it a bit.
It was just one of those opportunities that couldn't pass me by. I've been waking up at 5 in the morning with that legacy on my shoulders a little bit this week. I haven't been sleeping very well, and I've been texting, the people I work with and saying, we've got to get this right.
Our customers, when they come in here, expect something to be the same all the time. They want consistency. They want the same food. They want the same service.
It's going to be a seamless transition. That's the plan anyway, and the idea. And hopefully people come here and they really don't notice much has changed. I think we'll be looking to, do things slightly different around the edges of, the way the business is run now. Can we open for lunch? Which has been our most asked question by far. What I would just want to say that I'm super grateful for is the people here who've welcomed us and, made this place run so beautifully. And Steve, who's been like the most amazing, baton passer, torch bearer he could be, and that he really wants to see this place and the people continue to succeed.
Thank you for coming for the last 49 years, and please help me by coming here for the next 49 years for Adam and his partners and our staff.
Steve, enjoy retirement. Well, from food to food, we see how some fast food restaurants are looking for help. The robot kind of help. That's not Ray and Jerry style at all. But we'll find out more about it after the break. If you are a sports fan, you probably can't escape them. Those ads for online gambling. Now experts are calling for limits following an investigation by our colleagues at CBC Marketplace. In a first-of-its-kind study, they looked at just how many gambling messages we're seeing and what impact they could have. Asha Tomlinson breaks it down for us.
Think you've got good picks.
Gambling ads are everywhere, from the commercials
Proline, not just another sports book.
to these big, bold logos, to the sponsored segments breaking down your odds. So we collaborated with a team out of the UK to get some hard numbers. They analyzed 2 NBA and 5 NHL games.
It was just clear as we were watching those 7 games how bombarded we were by the sheer prevalence of gambling, brand logos and other references.
Researchers found 3,537 gambling messages in all. That works out to nearly 3 a minute.
That's crazy. That's kind of crazy still. I don't think we need so much gambling ads.
Yeah, but why does that concern you? What is shocking about it?
A lot of kids watch those games, you know?
That is a bit of a shocking stat.
Do you think there should be limits? Oh, did you see one?
Yeah.
See? Right there.
Yeah.
Experts say this is potentially harmful for young people and problem gamblers.
In our second quarter, we've had more calls than the entire last year. It's been online gambling. Often younger men, sports betting online.
Paul Burns represents the industry and says advertising is highly regulated. So how do you respond to people who say this is too much, it's excessive?
Some people think it is and some people don't think it is. I think that there's always more we can do, and we will continue to do that, and we are.
We reached out to both the NBA and NHL, no official comment. As for the broadcasters, CBC says that Sportsnet controls the advertising. Sportsnet tells us they want viewers to enjoy betting responsibly, and they do follow regulations. Same for TSN. They add that responsible gaming is a key element of their approach. And one stakeholder says that our findings appear to be overstated and that to count each logo is not the right way to measure overexposure. Asha Tomlinson, CBC News, Toronto.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's rejection of Palestinian statehood is provoking fresh reaction today. Netanyahu reaffirmed opposition to a two-state solution, and that's raising questions about a possible rift between Israel and its Western allies, including Canada. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau had spoken out in support of a two-state solution, and the U.S. has insisted the establishment of a Palestinian state is necessary to bring about a lasting peace. The Israeli Prime Minister says the war in Gaza will continue for months until complete victory over Hamas has been achieved. Israeli ground forces have been ramping up attacks in the southern city of Khan Yunis. Fire erupted at an oil storage facility in western Russia today, and officials in the region are blaming it on a Ukrainian drone attack. They say the drone was brought down, but that it then dropped its explosives on the site. They say no one was hurt. Ukrainian media reported the country's security services carried out the attack, but that agency would neither confirm nor deny involvement. Thousands of anti-abortion activists gathered for the March for Life in Washington today. It's an annual event, and it comes nearly a year and a half after the U.S. Supreme Court struck down Roe v. Wade. That's the law that legalized abortions nationwide in 1973.
I'm asking you today to continue to...
This was the scene on the National Mall in Washington, not far from the White House. Since Roe v. Wade was reversed in 2022, Republicans at the state level have passed numerous restrictive abortion laws. 4 states are enforcing bans on the procedure throughout pregnancy. Others have bans that take effect at about 6 weeks. In some states, bans are on hold amid legal proceedings. Anti-abortion activists are vowing to keep fighting until abortion is completely eliminated. Construction of a multi-billion-dollar electric vehicle battery plant in Quebec has been halted. Swedish company Northvolt says it has stopped clearing trees on the future factory site east of Montreal. The Quebec Environmental Law Centre filed a request yesterday for an injunction to demand the immediate suspension of work. It cited risks to the area's biodiversity. Tree clearing began earlier this week. It had been authorized by Quebec's Environment Ministry. An injunction hearing scheduled for today has been postponed until Tuesday. Northvolt's lawyers say they only received the documents yesterday afternoon. They say there are too many and they are too complex to respond today. Robots are taking over some tedious, repetitive tasks at fast food kitchens. Automation picked up during the pandemic as restaurants faced labor shortages. And for the workforce, this could mean big change is on the menu. Nisha Patel reports.
From flipping burgers to serving up French fries or tossing together salads, robots are working hard behind fast food counters these days.
Our core technology is designed with AI and machine learning.
Ashkan Mirnabavi created Remy, an automated assembly line that makes salads, as many as 300 in an hour.
The demand has been great and we've received a lot of inquiries and purchase orders.
Hi, welcome to McDonald's. Fast food jobs are fast-paced and demanding, and studies have shown that after the pandemic, fewer people want to do them. Many big brands like Domino's turning to automation to fill the gap.
Robotics companies say their machines could cut labor costs and shop customer wait times. Chipotle is testing a few options that could roll out in Canada sometime this year.
They can do the same task over and over and over again with a very high degree of efficiency and success.
The chain's Autocado machine cuts, cores, and scoops avocados, helping serve up a batch of guacamole in half the usual time. Chipotle says human workers are then free to focus on less repetitive tasks.
Allow them to spend more of their time engaging with hospitality with our guests.
Though companies are quick to declare that workers would see their positions change, not disappear, one report estimates more than 80% of restaurant jobs could potentially be done by robots. Experts say the sector's workforce could shrink permanently.
So what happens to those jobs?
It's not new that there will be shifts in where humans are needed.
Cautioning that amid this disruptive technology, it's crucial for employers to plan to retrain their employees.
What can that individual or that role be able to do differently that will be more customer-centric?
The technology is still pricey, but some fast food chains are starting to see its value. After all, robots can work around the clock and won't call in sick. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Toronto.
Still lots of local news still to come for you tonight, including Riley Lachuk with his look at the Manitoba forecast. So stay with us. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News. This next story is about crews in Montreal dealing with what sounds like a very Winnipeg problem. They are braving the cold in what their city is calling an emergency pothole repair blitz. Officials say the extreme temperatures they've been having over the past few weeks have taken a toll on their roads. So crews are using 8 specialized vehicles to help them fill, get this, more than 3,000 or so potholes every single day. Where do we get this equipment? But the crews in Montreal say they do have to act quickly since the work becomes much more difficult after it snows. Well, when it snows, then you have to shovel. And shoveling snow can be very hard on your body, especially your back, and especially for older adults. That's why a retired school custodian in Vancouver has created a shovel specifically for seniors.
So this is the senior's shovel. This is how it works. I am Paul Rebral. Since I'm already getting old, so I developed this one to save my back. So you just put it aside. Then back in the Philippines, when I was a kid, I don't have the luxury of buying kids. So I'd make my own toys. Instead of lifting the shovel, you have to just like down like that. Then you shovel like that, down. So, and you turn it in the side, and you can dump the snow there. Oh, the parts are junk actually from school. This one they use for the electrician, the tube for molding the electrical or something like that. And this one this is the hand truck. This is a garbage can that I shape it. So I just buy the cable. Necessity is the mother of invention. You dump it there.
Has creativity always been really important to you?
Oh yeah, because it motivates me to go to work every day.
He's a genius.
That is amazing.
Isn't that cool? Don't you just want to see that on Dragon's Den with some big investor giving him lots of money and making him rich?
I feel like that would have been handy about a week ago.
Yes, it would
here
have.
in Manitoba.
Well, in Vancouver, that's where he's using it. How are they doing with their snow?
So we have seen the snow exit the metro part of Vancouver, but other parts of British Columbia still seeing some very tricky conditions. We still have a lot of watches and warnings in place to the west of us through British Columbia. So if you have any travel plans west, you might want to check to make sure if you've got a flight that it's leaving and arriving on time. So snowfall warnings in the Kelowna-Kamloops region, freezing rain warnings in place as well for areas along the south coast into the Fraser Valley, and snowfall warnings in northern British Columbia as well. So the snow that we were talking about yesterday has changed over to rain for the most part. We're seeing the leading edge and some of that rain still falling through parts of the south coast, Metro Vancouver, and snow back to the east and through the interior. So looking at temperatures across Western Canada, we're seeing minus 13 in Thompson right now, minus 18 in Saskatoon, minus 19 in Edmonton. So yeah, if you think about where we were about a week ago, we really have seen things really start to warm up, and we'll start to see that warm up moving a bit further to the west as we get into the next few days. So minus 18 in Fargo right now, and looking toward the east coast, the Maritime provinces sitting at minus single digits for the most part. Closer to home, we're looking at temperatures around minus 18 for Winnipeg and Selkirk, minus 17 at the Forks. That was our forecast high today, minus 17 degrees for Winnipeg, minus 18 in Brandon this hour, minus 14s for both Dauphin and Swan River. And into the north, we're seeing temperatures really right around that minus 15 mark through Flin Flon, Napaw, and minus 19 this hour in Island Lake. Looking at your forecast for tonight, we're looking at mainly clear sky, very slim chance of some light snow through the Red Lake area tonight at minus 26 degrees. Otherwise, mostly clear conditions, and that is going to allow temperatures to really drop tonight across northwestern Ontario and through southern Manitoba. So as I mentioned, we have another cold night on the way, minus 26 for Emerson and Steinbach, minus 27 in Pinawa, minus 28 in Brandon overnight tonight, and minus 23 in Swan River. Varying amounts of sun and clouds through the north. We do have a slim chance we could see some flurries, really region-wide from Lynn Lake right down to Flin Flon, Napaw, and right across to Thompson and Gillam. So keep that in mind. That does taper off as we get through the day tomorrow. Minus 17 for Churchill. Chance of some afternoon light snow moving through for Flin Flon, the Paw. That is what will move across into central Manitoba through the evening on Saturday into the early morning on Sunday. So we're looking at some light snow as well through the Swan River region at minus 11, minus 12, Sir Portage la Prairie, Mord, Winkler. Watch south winds tomorrow gusting up to 50, especially if you're doing any highway travel for the Red River Valley tomorrow, because we will see windy conditions really region-wide tomorrow, and that could bring up some visibility concerns through the day. So we're looking at minus 14 in Steinbach tomorrow and into northwestern Ontario. Temperatures right around minus 15 degrees, sun and clouds. Your 7-day forecast is coming up.
Thanks very much, Riley.
You're welcome.
Japan has become the 5th country to land a spacecraft on the moon, but just like the last time the U.S. tried it, there is a problem. 2 solar panels were supposed to generate power for this unmanned craft once it landed, but they're not working. The thing is currently running off a battery. Officials suspect the panels are at the wrong angle. The mission was also testing an especially lightweight spacecraft, which seems to have worked. But determining whether another goal was met, a more precise landing than usually achieved, could take them another several weeks.
Stuck in a digital playground. They say we about to break out. I'm just trying not to break down. Trying to watch my way.
You're listening to local art rap ensemble Super Duty Tough Work, part of a big trade mission, a special trade mission from Manitoba heading to the United States next week. We're going to hear about it next. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News.
What I like about music and
A Manitoba trade mission heads to Los Angeles next week with the goal of promoting this province's music industry. I spoke with Andrea Davis, the manager of export programs for Manitoba Music, yesterday. Here's our conversation.
Hi, Jenna. Thanks for having me.
Why go to Los Angeles?
Los Angeles is a really important music market, both in North America and globally. This is Manitoba Music's sixth trade mission to Los Angeles. Each has been a bit different, but the focus is always on export development, business connections, and now for the past couple of years, we've also been doing co-writing sessions on these export trips to Los Angeles.
Co-writing sessions, that's where you take some songwriters and they'd sit down with other songwriters, is that correct?
Exactly, yeah.
So what might that spawn?
In the past, this has led to sync opportunities, to songs written in the co-writing sessions being included on other artists' albums, and to new relationships between artists, which I think are really valuable connections.
Well, let's talk about that, because you're not only taking songwriters with you, you're also taking a contingent of performers. Now, a lot of people might think in this day and age of TikTok and Instagram, you know, you don't need to go see people face to face. Why do you believe that those relationships are still important?
I think that in-person connection is still super important. So we're heading down with co-writers, as I mentioned, Andrina Turan, Lev Snow, and The Secret Beach. And then 3 showcasing artists, Ami Chun, Super Duty Tough Work, and Living Hour. And I think that although there are amazing opportunities that lots of these artists are taking advantage of virtually, there's really nothing that can replace that in-person connection that you make on the trips like this.
There's so much music out there online these days. You had a neat statistic for me. It really is a needle in a haystack that somebody might be seen and discovered.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the most recent statistic I heard was that 100,000 new songs are released on streaming platforms every day. And that includes all kinds of things. Many of those songs are never listened to. But it's true that there's so much music being made, so much great music being made, that there's certainly a challenge to stand out. And I think that's where those in-person connections come into play. So this trip, I think, is a really important opportunity for artists based in Manitoba to head down to the US and make some new relationships and build roads that hopefully will lead to new opportunities in their careers.
What will you use as a measure of success for this trip?
A lot of the successes are sort of qualitative. I think it can be difficult to measure the impact of some of the new relationships, like the artist-to-artist connections that are developed in co-writing sessions. But previous artists who have taken part in our trips to LA have had sync licensing opportunities, new business relationships, connections with booking agents and labels. So those are some of the ways that we might measure the success of this trip as well.
Well, good luck, Andrea. I hope it's very successful. That's Andrea Davis of Manitoba Music. Thanks for your time today.
Thanks very much for having me.
Your 7-day forecast and daily lift are next.
Let's have a look at your 7-day forecast now. Watch the winds tomorrow. We're expecting gusty winds out of the south, gusting to 50 in the afternoon. Minus 17 degrees. Then we see that chance of light snow moving through west to east across central Manitoba as we get into the day on Sunday. And then things are warming up from there as we get into next week. More cloud than sun on Monday. Then we're looking at minus single-digit temperatures up to -3 by the time we get to next Friday.
So next Friday, we'll be doing stories on people in shorts and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, many couples like to freeze a part of their wedding cake as a memento from their special day.
One woman in Vancouver did that, forgot about hers until 55 years later. Here's your Daily Lift.
Mom, she did a freezer clean out and she found a wedding cake. And it reminded her that this cake, it was a branch of a wedding cake. On her wedding day with Brian, Dad, her friend,
Gloria, her mother, made this cake, and she made 3-tiered cake that my mother took to Woodward's to have decorated.
She kept one of the side pieces before frosting it and building the tower and told her that she cannot open this cake till their 50th anniversary.
To be opened 2018.
And it's been 55 years since, completely forgot about its existence. Found it doing the defrost, and there it was, this big round cake, and it's a fruit cake, as the old wedding cakes were, I guess.
Well, it was a sort of almost a blind date.
He was a UBC medical student at the time.
My girlfriend said, now be kind to him, he's really shy. He works in the morgue.
Yeah, they started seeing each other.
He wasn't shy at all. I didn't know what they were talking about. So we went out for down to the pub in North Vancouver. Yeah, so that's how we met. He was a doctor in here for 50 years.
He continued his medical career, and he had a practice, I believe, in Sicamous and then in Salmon Arm. They just lived a wholesome life. They had a good, solid marriage. And
we didn't fight. He was a good talker. Beautiful. And I really miss him because I wish I could text him or something and ask him questions.
Anyway, Dad's passed away. Yeah, Dad passed away in June, so Mom's found. She was supposed to open it with him and eat it.
Yeah, 5 years ago. Of course, it got locked in the deep freeze. Well, lost in the deep freeze.
No, I was skeptical at first. I was like, well, is it freezer burn? Is it still going to be good? Mom's taking pictures of it. Or she's put it in a pot with a base, and she's steaming it with water. And she said that I was like, well, are we going to dig into this? And she says, no, she's going to cut it up into pieces and give it to all the kids in the family and whatnot. So I thought that was kind of neat.
It looks good.
And it looks great, and it smells good. Mm-hmm. There'll be some cake for all. So there's the 55-year-old fruit cake. Yay!
I would totally eat it.
Wonder how it tastes.
Like fruitcake. It tastes like fruitcake because it's amazing. Would you eat it?
Maybe.
Oh, you would.
See.
You would.
Have a great weekend.
If I tickled you and forced you to, you would. Good night.